Back with you, everybody. So, should employers push for more productivity or increase their employees' salaries? Which do they choose? Is it really a choice? I'm not even sure what we're asking, but I guess Dr. Andre Horton can help us here. We've got UA, senior lecturer in the Department of Economics. Put some respect on it, Dr. Andre Horton here with us this morning. Welcome to you, sir.
Good morning, Dr.
Doc,
Horton.
sorry, Doc. Morning, Doc.
Good morning, Dr. Horton.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to you guys as well.
It's
How are
really
you this
good.
morning?
It's good to have you.
All is
Well,
well,
thank you very
sir.
much. Looking at productivity and wages, and I'm curious first, though, just on a high level, has COVID increased productivity? I hear some companies saying that the new order and the work from home and so on has actually been beneficial to their outfits.
Yeah, good morning again. First of all, what we want to do is to define productivity for your listeners. And basically, productivity is defined as the amount of output per worker. So say, for example, we own a patty shop and a person makes 5 patties today, that's their productivity. If they make 6 patties tomorrow, it means that their productivity has increased.
How do you measure that in a non-patty making,
All
non-product
right, we
making?
measure that in a non-patty making way. If we're looking at services, if you have a hairdresser, a simple example, if she does 5 hairs today and she does 6 hairs tomorrow, it means that her productivity has increased. If we're looking at it from a service point of view in terms of a TV show, then what happens is that the time it takes you to complete a particular production for a show. So say, for example, last week it took you 2 hours to complete a show, and this week it takes you 3 hours. It means that your productivity has lessened.
What if you walk around a desk and you're not necessarily able to quantify in that specific way your tasks?
How we quantify it, how we measure it, for example, say you have a firm, then we measure it based on the industry that the firm is in. So say, for example, you have a bank, then the bank is in the industry of finance and insurance. So what happens is that we look at the total output of the bank, depending, and then the amount of employees that it took to create that output over a specific period of time. So if the bank has 100 employees and it's financial insurance, then we say, okay, these 100 employees created $1 billion today. Tomorrow they create 2 billion. Their productivity has doubled, basically. So that's how we measure it. Now, in Jamaica...
Dr. Andre, hang on 1 second. Let me jump in. Go back to the patty shop. And you said the person make 5 today and 6 tomorrow. If you talk about the compensation,
okay, so let's talk about the compensation.
Yeah, so they're supposed to get more money because they make the 6 the next day?
Well, that depends on the agreement with them and their bosses. But yes, real wages, which is the value of the income that you receive, is tied to our level of productivity. So
Is or should be?
it is. So what happens is that when productivity is falling, you don't have enough earnings to pay your staff because the value of what you're selling is falling. So a lot of the time, the wages, the real value of these wages keeps falling as well because prices are increasing, but the nominal value of the wages is remaining the same.
But that would suggest, Dr. Horton, that say the bank make $1 billion in the first quarter, and I earn $100 a week. The second quarter, they only make $500 million. That means my money is supposed to drop to $50 a week?
And if they make 200 billion in the quarter after
Would my
that,
money go
does
up?
his money double?
Well, that is a contract issue between the employers and the employee.
Okay.
But on an industry level, as well as on an aggregate level, what we're seeing is that companies tend sometimes to not to pass through much of these benefits to the employees on the lower level.
Right.
So what we're seeing is that in Jamaica, productivity, which is overall output per person in the country, has been going down, and real wages have been going down over the last 30 years. Now, what factors are contributing to this? There are a host of factors that can cause productivity to go on a rise. The number one globally has been technology, how we absorb technology. China Singapore, Japan, all of these countries have used technology to increase the level of technology. And there are other factors. The share of your economy that's in agriculture. So coming out of the agrarian age, moving into industrialization, countries starting to infuse more machinery in their production process, as well as people began to get smarter. So people move from the rural area to the urban area in order to contribute to industrialization. Now, this has been happening all over the world, but in Jamaica, the process has not been quick enough. So if you look at a waterfront, for example, in Baltimore, or you look at a waterfront, for example, in Singapore, then you'll notice the level of development that has taken place. If you look at downtown Kingston, then it is the reverse. In 1950s, Kingston was one of the best cities in the world. Kingston had electricity even before New York. We had trams that were taking people. The design of the city was such a way that the lanes people lived and the mains they worked. So that establishment enhanced the level of productivity that was taking place in the country. Jamaica in the 1960s was growing upwards of 9-10%. Now, fast forward to where we are now. Trade openness, lower inflation, as well as the level. So for Jamaica, the main contributors to our productivity are three things. The level of human capital, which is tied to years of schooling and our wages, and corruption. So for the rest of the Caribbean, the corruption variable does not turn up. For many countries around the world, the corruption variable does not turn up. But for Jamaica, corruption plays a significant role in how the country or how productive the country is.
Explain that a little bit more. Give me something specific. Why you say that?
All right. So what we do is that we gather data. So in order to understand how these variables respond to each other, we gather data. So we have data on total factor productivity, data on labor productivity, and then we regress these on other, what we call explanatory variables: human capital, corruption, the size of the economy that is in agriculture, trade openness, institutions, and so on and so on, tertiary level schooling. The size of the government is also important. So the variables that came up important, and corruption is measured by the Global Corruption Index. Transparency International. What they do is they give us a corruption score every year, like what they have been doing with other countries. And what we do now, when we run this data model, it highlights the variables that are significant. And based on our research, the variables that are significant for Jamaica are human capital, corruption. And human capital is basically your years of schooling. Human capital is basically your years of schooling and your compensation. So these are the variables that we have to take into consideration.
So how do we take that next step to addressing this issue then? Because corruption is something that takes will to fix, and it's something we've been battling for years. And then human capital is the other. So how do we move the needle and get to a place where Jamaicans can earn a livable wage based on their output? $7,000 per week is minimum wage now.
Yeah, the strength of our institutions and our social platform has to improve. Japan and the Philippines, many countries were in the same position as we were, where they were considered to be not as disciplined as they ought to be, as well as from the government point of view, they face a lot of corruption where leaders weren't leading by example. So what we saw happening is that they had to put in strict rules of law, as well as to get their institutions in a particular way where these institutions now facilitate the free flowing and movement of people, goods and services and so on, so that now the country itself can earn more. Because Simone, I am telling you, we are in a devastating position coming from the 1990s. The level of output per person, which is basically how much we are producing, has been declining. Our three most productive industries are electricity, gas, and water. mining and quarrying, and finance and insurance. These industries, the people in there, they produce upwards of 1 million, 2 million worth of value per year. Our least productive industries are agriculture, wholesale and retail, as well as hotel and tourism, where a lot of these people work.
Can be good.
So-
Those three are
so-
really big industries where we should be
and
making
they are
major
big
moves.
employers.
Yes,
So
yes,
because
yes.
they're not as productive as they ought to be.
Right.
They cannot compensate the people who work as they should. So we have to revisit how we do agriculture, how we infuse technology, as well as other types of post-harvesting and agricultural measures. We have to look at how we establish our institutions now, clean them up in such a way so that people are working for work instead of working for friendship, so that now we are forced to produce and the country move forward. So we have a lot of work to do. The good thing is that now the productivity is the new buzzword around the world. And we have been doing this research since 2018, myself and my fellow research associates. And we have a book coming out on the Jamaican economy that is supposed to be published this year coming. So there are a host of lessons that are available in that book for us now to go through industry by industry as to how to approach getting them to become more productive.
Thanks, my friend. Good to see you. Have a great
It's always a
Christmas, have a
pleasure.
great holiday season, and God bless you, and we'll talk soon, all right?
Definitely. You too, guys.
Thanks,
Simone, have a
Doc.
blessed morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Horton. Appreciate it.
Dr. Andre
Blessings every time.
You is senior lecturer in the Department of Economics. So coming up next, we hear all about the One City Christmas.